What's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again from Locked On Wizards. Today, we are going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly about Bradley Beal. That's right, the real deal Bradley Beal, the franchise player of the Washington Wizards. We are going to do the positives and negatives of his season and a final grade. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
So, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again from Locked On Wizards. We are going to be discussing Bradley Beal. He is the first of the players when it comes to the end of the season grading that we're going to do this week and next week, me and E. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So let's slide into it again. Probably for the third time. We are going to go through the positives, the negatives, and the final grade for the Real Deal Bradley Beal. So let's get into the positives, shall we? Because I know y'all wait on the negatives, but let's get into the positives first. Let's hear the good news first. So what were the positives that I got out of Bradley Beal's performance this season? Now, obviously, before we get into that, I'm going to go over his stat line. He averaged 23 points a game this season, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. He shot 50% from the field and 36% from the three. So overall, he did have a really, I'm not going to say really good, but he had a good year. You know, now if you compare it to the year where Russell Westbrook was here, the 2020-2021 season where he averaged 31, obviously the scoring was up there. But if you consider the fact that he played next to Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis, which we're going to grade and talk about them later this week, but which they also averaged 20 plus a game. So, with three guys, all three averaging 20 plus a game, I'm not expecting any of the three to average anywhere close to 30 points a game. So I have no problem with the stat line, but looking at his positives. Okay. Well, first of all, let's get the very obvious positives out the way before we critique him as a player. Okay. Community outreach. The things he's done for this community, especially I believe is the final week of the season where he donated money to DC for kids to be able to eat during the summertime, which I live closer to the Shenandoah Valley, and we kind of have the same issues out here. A lot of kids who are lower income, very often than not, the only meal they get is at school. So the summertime is very hard for kids who are going through lower income household or having issues at home. So I really like that he did that. Doing, dedicating basketball courts near Howard. His community outreach has been pivotal. He's done a lot. And it echoes a lot of other franchise players we've had in DC. Bradley, John Wall was huge in the community. I mean, very huge, very popular in DC. More so for off the court, just as as much as on the court performance. I don't know about Gilbert Arenas. I'm under the impression he didn't do too much in the community, which is it's all good. But again, the Gilbert Arenas era, I was actually active duty in the Army. So, while I was able to catch games, unless I was in the field or deployed overseas. But as far as like local news stuff in community, I didn't get a lot of that where I was stationed all over the place. So I don't have much to say about the Gilbert Arenas era as far as doing stuff out of out in the community. But John Wall and Bradley Beal, both catalysts in the community, and Russell Westbrook was his 1 year here. Number two, he averaged 20 plus, points a game this year. So, he's still that scorer, 23 points a game. Like I said, 50% from the field, 36% from three. So he's still that scorer, which slides into my third positive, which is when he was a scorer and not a playmaker, he played well and he played at a high level. We know, and then, like I said, I'm gonna get into the negatives, but with the turnover, especially in clutch time in the fourth quarter, bouncing the ball off his foot, being ISO heavy, slowing down the ball movement, and those are issues that came along with Bradley Beal trying to be a playmaker or trying to be, another point guard. No, when he sits back and he's a scorer, sits back and he scores, and that's his MO. He is very successful. And I think that, obviously this franchise is going forward with Kyle Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis, and Bradley Beal. They're solid three together as a core. So for this team to be successful, I truly believe that this offense is better served running through KP or running through Kuz and letting Bradley Beal be a scorer and not a facilitator. And especially when we get that point guard, he's, it really behooves him to be that scorer because, when we finally get a point guard, we're going to have a guy who's going to be able to orchestrate the offense. So before we get into the negatives about Bradley Beal's season, tonight's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. Ultimate Pro Basketball General Manager is the coolest game I've played in a long time. I've always thought I could be a great NBA GM. As it turned out, it's not that easy. If you had the same thought and have fantasized about managing your own basketball franchise, go and download Ultimate Pro Basketball GM right now. The game allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise, such as playing through seasons and leading your franchise and fans to glory as you build a historic dynasty. In the simulation, you're responsible for dealing with challenging personalities, players, and coaches, hiring the right coaches and assistant coaches, trading and training players, and making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of the multiple seasons in the NBA. All this in the challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball Gym is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want. Locked On Wizards fans and listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code, and look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com, Ultimate Basketball General Manager. Start your dynasty today. And again, thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every dayers. Tomorrow, we are going to break down the end of the season grades for Kristaps Porzingis. So definitely tune in tomorrow for that. So let's get into the negatives. Obviously, there's a little more negatives than positives, but Bradley Beal, what was the negatives about his season? Number one, injuries. He dealt with a lot of injuries. Like they say, availability is the best ability. And with him being on a Supermax contract, year one of a Supermax contract, and being that top option, the franchise player, his inability to be on the court hurt, especially when it came down to the chemistry between him, Kyle Kuzma, and Kristaps Porzingis, and especially his chemistry with the supporting cast. Two, body language, especially during losses. Okay, me and Ed, we both got on him a lot this year with bad body language. Obviously when he plays Boston, he has a close relationship with Jason Tatum. They both reside from St. Louis, and that's fine. A lot of people come from the same areas and they have that relationship, especially with the fact that they grew up together. I believe Bradley Beal actually grew up with Nelly, the rapper. So, he has a relationship with people from St. Louis, and I get that. But, when you're in the middle of a game, especially in a game where you're losing big, it's just not good body language to high five team players on the other team, to smile on the bench, to be at the free throw line smiling. I'm not going to harp too much on it because I've had my moments this season on the subject, but I'll say this, the body language, usually with younger players, you see bad body language, even support players, but from your franchise player, that's not what you want to see. You don't want to see him laughing when you're getting blown out. Because that's not body language you see from top tier franchise players. If you look at Michael Jordan, he never laughed when he was getting blown out. Kobe Bryant was never smiling when he got blown out. These top guys with that dog in them, that Mamba mentality, they're not smiling when they're getting blown out. And the body language has to be showing up because, look, I get it, man. When you make this amount of money and when you are in the position you are subject to public opinion, especially with us being Wizards fans, we are also consumers. So me personally, I don't want to see my franchise player laughing and smiling when they're down 15 to 20 points. Number three, interviews on his patience. Let me say this. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm gonna take his side. I'm gonna give you my take. From a player perspective, obviously, when you're that guy, when a franchise has dedicated that amount of money to you, the franchise is telling you as a player that you hold a certain amount of significance and importance for the franchise. And that's what they did when they signed Bradley Beal to that Supermax. But the lack of patience, I'm gonna say this. I don't really want to hear too much about your lack of patience when the franchise paid you $250 million. Now, you knew that when you signed that contract that putting talent around you was going to be that much harder, especially year after year as your salary grows every year. So, I don't really know much. I don't really have much to say about his lack of patience. Because your contract is the reason why Tommy Shepard has to will and deal and try to find a ways to build around you, and he's getting it done. Like I said, I just did a grade on Tommy Shepard, and I get it. It wasn't the best grade because he hasn't hit on draft, on the draft or trade. But again, we're talking about Bradley Beal. I'm not gonna get on Tommy Shepard, but Tommy's job to surround Bradley Beal with talent is that much harder with the contract. So, I really, and if you add that to the fact that you've been injured, I don't want to hear about your lack of patience. You know, be healthy, work on being healthy, work on being that scorer, and work on being that franchise guy, being a leader, and start worrying about patience. Because if you do your job as a leader, and if we have the chemistry for this solid three, and Tommy Shepard is able to go out and do what he has to do this offseason, this can be a better team. So, that those are the negatives that I see from Bradley Beal this season. So before we get into my final grade, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So, have you ever had issues trying to find tickets for baseball, football, basketball, even a concert? Well, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theaters near you. With killer deals and last minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So I've had experiences using Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, but I've really found Game Time to be very, very user friendly. So forget about planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Yeah. Get exclusive flash deals and tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section of the row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's right, 110% of the difference. Get images of the seat you before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect and what your field of view is before you buy the tickets. Buy the tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email again. Snap the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use a code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, what is my final grade before we roll out tonight? It's going to be short and sweet tonight. Obviously, everybody, with the Wizards not being in the playoffs, we are going to right now before the draft, or rather this week and really next week, we're going to do a lot of end of the season grades and a lot of evaluation from the players, coaches, everybody. There's going to be a lot of evaluations, but going towards the draft, we're going to be doing a lot of draft content. And of course, going after the NBA finals, going towards free agency, we are going to get into a lot of free agency. So definitely tune in because we're going to do a lot for the offseason, a lot of draft, a lot of offseason content. So what is my final grade for Bradley Beal? Taking into account that, yes, he is a pivotal factor in this community. As a scorer, he did well last season. If you look statistical wise, he played well. 23 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists a game. So, and he did that playing next to 2 guys who, and likewise, scored 20 plus. So I felt like he had a decent season. But injuries, availability is your best ability. And the fact that he was injured hurt him. Body language, issues off the court, the issue with flipping the fan's hat. I said it then. It's a sketchy situation where really both parties are at fault. Restraint on the part of Bradley, and really, come on, man, who really cares about a drunk fan's parlay? But I get it. But the body language, the issue off the court, I'm not going to really put that issue on him, but the body language is, and interviews on patience. Nobody's trying to hear that. So, what is my final grade for the season for Bradley Beal? And this was a hard one. I'm going to give him a C plus. Obviously there's going to be some people that agree. It's going to be some of y'all that don't agree, but I'm giving a C plus because while his availability was an issue, if you take out the part where, the bad turnovers in crunch time, when he settles into being that scorer, he's in his zone. He's in his element. So I'm gonna give him a C plus. I think that it could have been a better season for him, especially with injury wise and being available. Especially but I think that the fact that them having him bring the ball up is more so on coaching than it is on Brad. But again, being that franchise guy, you got to be very vocal with the coaching to say, look, I'm not that dude. So I'm gonna give him a C plus. And so again, this week we are going to cover Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, and the rest of the starting five this week. And next week we're going to get into the young core and the bench pieces, and we're going to ramp up and do a lot of draft stuff within the next week or so, and free agency stuff after the NBA Finals. So thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day, every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, we are going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis and the good, the bad, and the ugly with the unicorn and his final grade. And we're going to also do Kyle Kuzma the day after. So again, I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Hail to the Wizards, and